Okay, so now that we've kind of discussed composition a little bit and sort of mulled over some of the deliberate uh, design goals that we were trying to go for and what we want to see here, let's go in and explore some of the mesh, not from the camera view itself, but just sort of like how the overall layout was put together. Now, obviously, I was very deliberate to model and present to this particular camera, which is 28 mil. It's a bit fish-eyed. There's some definite distortion going on. If I remove the crop frame, you can see just how extensive uh, that distortion is. And I really like a little touch of this. I like to get kind of dramatic, and I found that the particular camera view that I had opted for um, sort of pushed back the head of the pilot area and the helmet, the VR helmet itself, which I really liked actually because it pushed us away from it, but at the same time, um, sort of sucked you back into the composition a bit more. So we're still achieving more of that overall feeling that we wanted, and it sort of pushed the front end of the chair out to you a little bit more aggressively, which I liked. So I was modeling within a perspective window, but I was always making sure to keep an eye on the camera just to see what was going on and see if I liked some of what was happening. And of course, that camera, kind of at times would sort of help make some decisions with the overall composition as I was building out some of the mesh. Because sometimes if you made it a little longer or a little shorter, you would see the distortion and you'd see that it looked really good. So you'd let it be, or you would or maybe make a decision that you don't want to cater to the camera too much. So this is this sort of place to play around. So just looking at the model as we have it right now, you can see that I didn't bother to answer a lot of questions like where these wires go or where they come from or what the heck this pipe does or anything like that, because it's just for a final image. So ultimately, it's not a concern of ours, and it frees you up to not have to worry so much about making it all make sense. You got to explain it somewhat, I find, when you're doing this kind of stuff, but there are times where you can get away with it. And obviously, there's places where we just let it be because we don't have to worry about its connection points or anything like that. Um, and also, it's something to point out that I do plan when I get to the texturing stage of the model is to go in and down res and chop out any and all geos that we can think to get rid of. So this is my nod to Hal. This is my tribute to 2001 and one of my favorite directors, Stanley Kubrick. Um, so here we go. That's it. So I guess from here, I will take you to the blocking stage and we can show you where I kind of started with all of this. So when I initially set out to kind of figure out what it was going to be or how it was going to look like, I had a basic description that I had written down. No real thumbnails or any real choices have been made uh, as of thus far, but I did know that it was a female navigator who was, interfacing with this massive ship's brain, and that I knew that much, and I knew I wanted the organic elements and some of the stuff we discussed conceptually. I knew I wanted, but how that was all going to work and how that was all going to come to be was a bit of a mystery. So, as you can see here, I had a base female cage from my collection of models that I've worked on over the years, and I had participated in a modeling challenge, so I had this mesh laying around that was very recently built. So I went back to an old version of it, and I chopped her up into a posed sort of maquette sort of idea to get the proportions and the volume, and ultimately she will become the navigator for the final composition, which we didn't cover in this lesson. But it was good to have her as a reference point. So you can see had her in a base pose, sort of, sort of roughly tweaked her around to figure out how she was going to be in her resting state. And I went about blocking the chair out around her. The chair was like sort of this combination of a dentist's chair and a fighter pilot ejection seat. So I had collected numerous references of just that, of dentist chairs and F-16 fighter jet, ejection seats, and old style ejection seats, new style ejection seats, NASA NASA pilot chairs, anything I could think to reference. And I guess it's important to touch on that before I ever started modeling this piece, I collected a vast amount of reference. Just about anything I could think to get my hands on: mechanical parts, engine parts, jet engine parts, like I said, the ejection seat, monitors, anything and anything that I could think would be pertinent. And, just created a basic little reference library and had that on my desktop. Just referred to it over and over and over and over again, because I knew I wasn't going to work with a concept on this. I wanted to just have it be a fun experience. I wanted to just freeball some mesh and concept there, because I felt comfortable in that medium. I tend to get faster results designing in 3D sometimes. It's not always the case, of course. Sometimes you can really spin your tires. But so you can see the roots initially just started out as these pipe-like structures, are just basic curves. Just sort of placed them really quick and dirty. And I built this base monitor and this very simplistic keyboard here. Nothing too fancy. Again, you can see how I just took a very simple keyboard idea and I just built it out, knowing full well that I didn't quite know what I was going to do with it. Like I said, it started as an afterthought. But where I did kind of get a little bit more elaborate was this interlocking pipe system that would ultimately become the computer, or what I call the comp tree. And we placed what was going to be the brain. Didn't know what it was going to be yet. Didn't really have any clear idea yet. But I knew that it was the central brain and a conduit. Initially, I had one conduit, and I had this reference image of this jet engine part that I just thought was really awesome. And a colleague of mine had pointed out in my initial little thumbnail that I did that it didn't look right to not have two. Like, for some reason, I wanted to kind of stay away from too much symmetry on this model intentionally, but it turns out that symmetry was a really good idea here. And where I broke the symmetry was that I made both unique and I didn't just mirror one over. And I think that was a really good call. And I think actually that decision and that suggestion really sort of pushes this whole composition into a much, much better place. So I was very glad to get that critique. And I like working with critiques myself. I really like back and forth with other artists and, sort of discussing in the collaborative progress. It's a tremendous asset if you have like-minded people who just really appreciate art and just really like to have fun and just get really excited about designs and science fiction and fantasy and whatever it is that they're into. It really gets you excited. It makes you want to work more. And my friends and my colleagues have definitely always been a source of inspiration for me, and it's been a lot of fun. So that's the blocking, and from there I started to decide sort of overall composition within thumbnails and small drawings. Once I'd kind of gotten that far and I had a little bit more of a cemented idea of where I was going to go, I realized that this was going to be a lot of simple shapes, flanges and pipes, and I set about going on to the next stage, which I usually do anytime I have a lot of repetitive shapes, which is creating a library for myself of meshes that I know I'm going to use a lot. So what you would refer to as an erector set. So I will open up the erector set so we can take a look at it.